CEO discovered a hidden genius in a black maid's daughter solving a $1 billion dilemma. Everyone's talking. Claire Thomas scrubbed furiously at the marble countertop, each swipe fueled by her swirling anxiety. The opulent office around her glittered with wealth she could never touch, yet she felt every bit of it pressed down on her soul. Her hands trembled with fatigue, the seams of her frayed work uniform pooling at her ankles, making her feel even smaller against the backdrop of corporate grandeur. Last night, she had watched Maya, her brilliant daughter, labor with high-spirited focus, metal wires strewn on the floor like a jigsaw puzzle waiting to be solved. Maya's genius was undeniable, but as Claire scrubbed away the remnants of someone else's life, dread gripped her heart. Would it matter? As the afternoon sun streamed through the glass office, Claire's thoughts spiraled into doubt. A call from the school principal echoed ominously in her mind, their tones heavy with concern about Maya's advanced projects. "It's just too much for a girl her age," Claire imagined them saying. Would they even recognize her daughter's potential in the narrow scope of their expectations? She wanted to scream, to defy their judgments, and yet every time she brushed against the idea of Maya's future, a knot tightened in her stomach. It felt impossible to reconcile her daughter's brilliance with the world's expectations, and those ramifications haunted Claire's soul. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That evening, Claire stumbled into their cluttered apartment, exhaustion wrapping around her like thick fog. As she dropped her keys onto the kitchen table, her heart raced at the sight of an intricate model rocket far more advanced than the ones Maya had painted before. This one seemed somehow alive, pulsating with the anticipation of discovery, and it both thrilled and terrified her. What if they got too much attention? What if someone found out about her daughter and it all came crashing down? Simultaneously, she reveled in pride, picturing Maya dazzling the world. But then images of corporate suits, unconcerned with the struggles of a single mother and her child, splashed against her mind, the drowning glare of privilege. Was it wrong of her to hope? A frown flickered across her face as she held the model, the weight of expectation crashing down on her again. Would they dismiss Maya, yet again, simply because of the life they could not escape? Claire's internal battle reached a fever pitch. What if she pushed Maya toward recognition and it all collapsed? Would her daughter's genius become another cause for skepticism, a mismatch against a backdrop of bias? Fears pooled in the pit of her stomach, swirling dark and treacherous. That unfathomable chasm between their lives and those who sat wrapped snugly in comfort felt unbridgeable. It made Claire shatter inside, giving way to a suffocating panic. What if this was still all a dream, and in waking, it vanished like vapor? As she sank down onto the couch, staring at the captivating rocket ready to embark on its journey, a tear slipped from her eye. Yet, ignited by the flicker of hope, she choked back her sobs, tightening her fists in determination. They would not be overlooked. Through the murmur of fear, a single thought sparked brighter than before: she'd let her daughter's light shine. But the question loomed, would it be worth the price? Knowing the stakes felt heavier than ever, Claire's focus sharpened, honing in on the at-risk future of them both, wondering if they could indeed break free or remain trapped forever in the shadow of societal indifference. Claire spent the following day grappling with the weight of her decision. From dawn until dusk, she oscillated between anxiety and a burgeoning resolve to take an active role in ensuring Maya's future. The cycle of scrubbing shiny surfaces and emptying waste baskets felt unbearable, each task magnifying the divide she felt from the corporate elite who casually strolled through the opulent hallways, unbothered by the lives outside their glittering cocoon. Weeks passed, and with each grind of her daily routine, Claire's fear began to evolve into strategic planning. She found herself researching STEM programs, scholarships, and mentorship opportunities late into the night, illuminated only by the muted glow of her laptop, juxtaposed against the darkness outside. The prospect of opening doors for Maya felt exhilarating yet daunting. Each opportunity could either lift them from obscurity or expose them to harsh judgments. One evening, while searching for local science fairs, Claire discovered a competition renowned for showcasing young inventors. The prize was substantial scholarships for advanced education, but the stakes felt just as high. Could she really submit Maya's project? Would they be ready for the scrutiny that came with such exposure? Claire's introspection had shifted from merely protecting her daughter to embracing every ripple of possibility. With a sense of purpose, Claire brought the idea to Maya, her nerves tingling with anticipation for her daughter's reaction. Sitting across the table, she hesitantly shared her research, her voice steadying as she detailed the competition's potential. The rustle of papers faded into silence as Maya processed her mother's words, her eyes widening with excitement. At that moment, Claire saw a flicker of recognition in Maya, understanding that beyond the intimate laboratories of their home, an entire world awaited to embrace her intelligence. Yet, the shadow of doubt lingered. What if they faced rejection? What if the judges dismissed her project based on preconceived notions about their background? Claire's heart raced as she imagined the fallout. As days turned into weeks, the deadline slowly inched closer. Maya poured her heart into perfecting the model rocket, her creativity blossoming into a fully realized invention, a testament to her hard work and ingenuity. Together, they carefully documented the intricate building process, Claire capturing every moment with photographs. The mundane apartment transformed into a workshop brimming with hope and potential. Claire felt a pulse of pride as they crafted a narrative around the rocket, transforming it into more than just a model. It was a symbol of their journey, a bridge spanning the chasm of their current reality and brighter tomorrows. Yet, just as excitement mounted, so did the pressure. Claire found herself battling sleepless nights, each tick of the clock echoing louder than the last. She felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, torn between her dreams for Maya and the overwhelming possibility of judgment from others. The deadline loomed large, and as they stepped into a room filled with other contestants, the reality of their situation began to crystallize. Claire looked around at the other projects, marvels of engineering and invention from children who had access to resources they could only dream of. Each model, polished and perfect, raised a fresh wave of anxiety within her. But Maya stood beside her, confidence radiating as she prepared to present. For the first time, Claire saw the genius not as a distant star but as a bright fire forged from struggle and resilience. As she watched her daughter articulate the purpose of her rocket to the judges, the dam of Claire's fear began to crack. In that moment, she understood the battle before them wasn't merely about winning, it was about asserting their place in a world that may never fully recognize their brilliance. And just as a sense of victory began to warm Claire's heart, something unexpected happened in the audience. A figure clad in a tailored suit narrowed his eyes at Maya's project, an expression flickering across his face that hinted at recognition and not in a good way. Claire's heart sank as she grappled with the realization that perhaps their journey was only beginning. What awaited after this moment could redefine everything they had worked for, or tear it apart entirely. The time had come to face the looming challenges, and Claire braced herself for whatever lies ahead. Claire could feel the weight of expectations pressing down on her chest. The energy in the room was electric, conversations punctuated by laughter and applause, but to her, the sounds faded into a dull roar. Her focus was solely on Maya, who stood before the judges, unwavering in her enthusiasm. Claire caught the doubtful glances from other parents, the dismissive whispers among the onlookers, and it rocked her resolve. What if they scrutinized Maya's work as they did with everything else in their lives? What if they reduced their immense effort to mere stereotypes? Claire inhaled sharply, the taste of anxiety bitter on her tongue. It was one thing to believe in her daughter, it was another entirely to trust that belief would translate into acceptance in a world that often turned a blind eye. As Maya concluded her presentation, Claire watched her daughter's smile, triumph shining bright. This was a moment to savor, yet Claire couldn't let it linger. The figure in the suit, still observing with unsettling concentration, nodded her. A slow realization settled upon her: this wasn't simply a competition, it was a confrontation. Tentatively, she approached a corner of the room where the suit-wearer stood, assessing the others with a critical eye. Didn't he look familiar, but Claire's gut instinct told her that he was someone important, perhaps someone with the power to make or break their aspirations. "Excuse me," she started, her voice steady but faintly shaken. "Do you mind if I introduce myself?" Confident or not, she had to confront this unknown element. Avoiding him could result in unwarranted assumptions swirling around their project. The man turned, an eyebrow raised in curiosity tinged with skepticism. "You'll have to be quick." "I'm busy," he said, the edge to his voice slicing through Claire's illusions of courtesy. Before she could falter or reconsider, the words flowed out like water. "I'm Claire, Maya's mother. I just wanted to say that we've worked hard on this project, and I hope you see the potential it represents, not just as a competition entry but as a glimpse into what every child can achieve with the right support." The words tumbled out, fiercely articulated and raw. The man regarded her for a moment, his expression shifting as he weighed her sincerity against the biases that plagued the industry. "This is precisely what I mean," he replied sharply. "What sets your daughter apart from the others? How can you justify her presence here?" Claire felt a prickle of indignation pierce through her fear, igniting something deep within, an unwavering defiance. She sets herself apart by being herself. Maya has poured hours of work into this, and that effort should stand alone. The world needs to remember that brilliance isn't bound by appearances or privilege. For a heartbeat, silence enveloped them. Claire wondered if she had overstepped. But then a flicker of intrigue sparkled in the man's eyes. "Bravery is commendable," he said, the edges of his demeanor softening, "but it only garners attention. It won't guarantee success." Shaking, Claire faced the challenge in his statement. "Then let us prove to you that success isn't merely about the competition or accolades, it's about what lies beyond. What we can give to the world." As she turned to walk back to Maya, the man's eyes were fixed upon her again, his demeanor shifting as if intrigued by this unexpected confrontation. There was a glimmer of understanding there, one that hinted that he might have seen something beyond the surface, something that could provoke a change in the rigid expectations that governed his realm. Each step back toward Maya fueled Claire's determination. She was no longer merely a mother shielding her child from judgment, she was a force pressing against the rigid boundaries that separated worlds, an advocate for a future that embraced potential, no matter the source. As they left the presentation room and entered the near-empty hall, Claire's heart raced with the realization that their path had shifted. The encounter had ignited an ember of ambition within her, pushing her aspirations beyond successful participation. She was now catering a desperate hunger for recognition. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she spotted someone approaching, a woman in a lab coat, carrying an armful of papers and a look of urgency. The tension in the air thickened. Claire's heart leaped, recognizing that this new figure could bring unexpected opportunities or devastating setbacks. What might this woman want? And how would it alter the trajectory of Maya's budding genius? Claire's instincts kicked in, heart pounding as the woman drew closer. The frenetic energy in the air hummed like a live wire, charged with potential, both thrilling and intimidating. This was a moment that could pivot their journey into uncharted waters, and Claire's mind raced to formulate a plan. She clutched Maya's hand, feeling the soft warmth of it against her own clammy palm, grounding herself amid rising apprehension. "Claire. Claire what?" The lab-coated woman's voice was assertive yet tinged with urgency. Claire nodded, not trusting herself to speak just yet. "I'm Dr. Elaine Johnson," the woman introduced herself, extending a hand, her fingers still clutching several folders. "I've seen your daughter's presentation, and I must say she's impressive." Claire's heart swelled with pride at the praise, but doubt nibbled at the edges of her celebration. "What do you mean?" Claire asked, searching Dr. Johnson's eyes for clarity. What could this esteemed figure possibly want with them? Dr. Johnson's gaze narrowed slightly, evaluating Claire's reaction. "I'm currently overseeing a project related to educational development, specifically focusing on finding innovative and unique talents among underserved communities. Maya's idea resonated with me. It's exactly the kind of outside-the-box thinking we need. The words hung in the air, sparking both hope and confusion within Claire. Are you suggesting? She struggled to articulate her thoughts. Was this an opportunity, or merely a fleeting compliment? Yes, Dr. Johnson interjected with a hint of urgency. I want to collaborate with Maya. I believe her concept could potentially address real-world issues, something our organization is invested in. A surge of emotion coursed through Claire, the thrill of potential mingled with fear. But Maya is just a child, she's only experimenting with ideas, Claire said, doubts creeping into her voice. What does she know about actual implementation? Dr. Johnson smiled, a knowing look in her eyes. That's where you come in, Claire. You're clearly passionate and determined. You're part of this journey, and your support would be invaluable. We could help Maya nurture and develop her ideas into something tangible. Claire's mind worked furiously. This could provide a launchpad for Maya's budding genius, yet it felt precarious. She couldn't allow her daughter's potential to be exploited or pigeonholed into roles dictated by others. What do you want from us? She pressed, suspicion waking in her gut. I want you to think this through, but I also need you to be open-minded. This isn't just about her winning a competition, it's about redefining possibilities for young children in our program. The conviction in Dr. Johnson's voice was palpable, stoking Claire's curiosity and apprehension. After a beat, Claire responded, and what happens if Maya isn't ready? Or if things don't pan out? Dr. Johnson's eyes softened, sincerity radiating from her. That's the beauty of exploration. It's not solely about success, it's about the journey, the growth that comes from stepping outside one's comfort zone. What happens in the end is different from what this moment implies. Claire felt a swell of resolve. She needed to protect Maya's enthusiasm yet embrace the possibilities that came with this unexpected proposition. I'll discuss this with Maya first. We need to be sure, of course, Dr. Johnson interjected. Take your time. Just know that opportunities like this don't always knock twice. As the woman joined the throngs of attendees moving through the hall, Claire turned to Maya, whose bright eyes reflected both excitement and naivete. Somewhere, deep down, Claire knew they stood on the precipice of something transformative. Mom, what did she want? Maya asked, fidgeting with the hem of her shirt, curiosity evident on her face. Claire drew in a breath, weighing her next words. She wants to talk about your ideas and how they can make an impact, she replied, gauging Maya's response. Maya's expression shifted, excitement bubbling to the surface. So, she thinks I could help people? Yes. But we need to tread carefully, Claire replied, a sense of protectiveness enveloping her heart. This could be a big step for you, but it's vital we go into it aware of all that could come with it. Maya nodded, her mind already racing with the possibilities. Claire reveled in her daughter's infectious eagerness but couldn't shake the nagging uncertainty about what this crossroads would demand from them. Claire's gaze darted back to the now empty hall, uncertainty festering in her gut. How far was she willing to go to support her daughter's dreams? What if embracing this opportunity meant shaking hands with the very expectations that had once suffocated her? The answers loomed just out of reach, teetering on the edge of exploration and vulnerability. Against that backdrop, another question arose: could Claire truly find strength in nurturing not just her daughter's aspirations, but her own as well? The prospect of facing that truth set her heart aflame, and she felt the ground shifting beneath their feet. In that moment, facing the duality of possibility and risk, Claire understood one thing: the time had come to redefine success on their own terms. Claire stood before the cold glass of the conference room window, looking out at the bustling city below. The weight of Dr. Johnson's proposition settled heavily upon her shoulders. She could feel the stakes rising, a mix of exhilaration and dread coiling within. It was no longer just about Maya's potential but about her own fears and limitations. Would stepping out of her protective bubble invite the chaos she had always avoided? Mom. Maya's voice, neat and small, pulled Claire back from her spiraling thoughts. Yes, honey. Do you think I'm ready? I mean, what if I mess up? The sincerity in Maya's question cut deep, reminding Claire of her own childhood, when her aspirations were often stifled by doubt. Claire knelt down, bringing herself to eye level with her daughter. This is a big opportunity. You'll face challenges, but it's those very challenges that help you grow. Remember, it's okay to falter. That's part of learning. Maya's furrowed brows slowly transformed into a tentative smile. So, you really think I can help? Pride surged through Claire, yet the anxiety lingered just beneath the surface. I believe in you, but we have to be wise about this. That evening, the pair sat across from each other at the kitchen table, remnants of dinner piled high. Claire opened her laptop and typed Dr. Elaine Johnson into the search bar, the glowing screen illuminating the uncertainty etched on her face. What credentials could possibly justify this leap of faith? As articles popped up, detailing Johnson's ambitious career, Claire found herself imposed with further disquiet. Claire pursed her lips and leaned back in her chair. Dr. Johnson was established, a powerhouse in educational development, with accolades that went beyond Claire's experiences. As she scrolled through photos of inspiring initiatives and smiling children benefiting from her work, Claire's inadequacy gnawed at her. How could she guide Maya when she herself felt like an imposter in this world? The next morning, as they prepared to meet Dr. Johnson, Claire steeled herself, adopting a calm facade. She focused on the logistics, how to present Maya's ideas clearly, how to articulate any concerns that might arise. But deep down, a swirl of questions churned whether she would be strong enough to advocate for her daughter without being overwhelmed by the pressure of institutional expectations. The towering building loomed over them, a testimony to success and prestige. As they approached the entrance, Claire caught Maya's vibrant energy, a stark contrast to her own wavering confidence. Would she be able to harness that spirit during their meeting? Or would she falter under the scrutiny of industry veterans? Inside the sleek, modern lobby, Claire felt the nervous energy pulse off her daughter. Maya bounced on her heels, enthusiasm bubbling. I can't wait to show her what I've been working on. With a deep breath, Claire nodded to her daughter, inviting that same enthusiasm to wash over her own apprehension. You've got this. The elevator ride felt interminable, time stretching as Claire mentally prepared herself. As the doors slid open, the day ahead transformed into palpable opportunity. They entered the conference room, and Claire's eyes immediately sought Dr. Johnson, who stood ready, her warmth arresting the stiff atmosphere. Welcome. Dr. Johnson said, her smile illuminating the professional setting. I'm thrilled you both could make it. Claire swallowed her self-doubt as Maya stepped forward, confidence gleaming in her eyes. This wasn't just about the project, it was about reclaiming a part of herself that had long been buried. I worked really hard on my idea, Maya began, words tumbling forth with a frenetic excitement that reminded Claire of how she used to feel before doubt crept in to mute her own voice. As Maya shared her concept, Claire felt a blend of pride and newfound urgency wash over her. This was more than an opportunity for Maya, it was Claire's moment to shift her internal narrative, the chance to forge her identity as an advocate rather than just a protector. But as the discussion progressed, Claire felt Dr. Johnson's insightful questions probe deeper into the intricacies of Maya's ideas. Each inquiry, though edged with encouragement, carried a weight that pressed against Claire's resolve. Could she remain on this path, encouraging her daughter while confronting her own fears? The last query lingered in the air, leaving Claire at a crossroads within the comfort of an unexpected choice: step back and let Maya thrive on her own, or step up and confront the fears that had long held her captive. The meeting had ignited something within Claire, but as she looked at Maya's eager face, she realized she stood at the threshold of more than support. She was now on the brink of embracing not just Maya's future, but her own redemption, roused by a flicker of determination. As they departed the building, Claire's mind raced with thoughts of whether they were indeed ready for this journey. The rush of opportunity tinged with danger gave way to an unsettling realization: the transformative power of this experience could hold the key to unlocking her own brilliance, while simultaneously exposing their vulnerabilities. What awaited them on this uncharted path became a shadowy prospect, and with each step, Claire sensed the imminent pull of change both for Maya and for herself. As they stepped out into the sunlight, one question dominated Claire's thoughts: was she finally ready to embrace the unknown alongside her daughter? The moment they stepped outside, Claire felt the warmth of the sun on her face, yet it could not thaw the chill of uncertainty creeping into her chest. She glanced at Maya, whose smile was radiant, a stark reminder of the passion and zeal that had once fueled Claire's own dreams. The juxtaposition between her daughter's excitement and Claire's apprehension intensified. Was this truly the beginning of a new chapter, or merely a charade masking her underlying fears? In the days that followed, Claire found herself lost in a whirlwind of emotions. Each time she closed her eyes, Dr. Johnson's probing questions echoed in her mind. What strategies would you implement? How have you validated these ideas? Those inquiries haunted her as though they were personal indictments against her own capabilities, and she could feel the weight of Maya's expectations pressing down, too. Seeking clarity, Claire immersed herself in research, delving deeper into educational strategies and developmental psychology. Paradoxically, the more she learned, the more inadequate she felt. These concepts glittered like faraway stars, vast and unfathomable, while she wrestled with her own limited framework. Envy crept in, acknowledging that Dr. Johnson's world was one Claire had only glimpsed from afar. Late one night, while organizing her notes, Claire stumbled upon a quote from an educational theorist: "Every child is a potential genius." She paused, letting the words sink in. The piece had been meant to bolster Maya's self-esteem, but it struck a deeper chord with Claire. What if this journey was not solely about Maya's potential but about healing fragments of herself that had become dulled over the years? Could she, too, discover her own genius through her daughter's endeavors? The next morning, Claire resolved to tackle her fears head-on. She crafted a short proposal based on Maya's unmet needs within the current educational framework, tying it to her daughter's ideas. While she poured her heart into the project, each word felt like a brush against the fabric of her long-forgotten aspirations, each sentence reconnecting her to the person she once strived to be. As their meeting with Dr. Johnson approached again, Claire committed to speak, regardless of the tremors in her voice. The urge to shield Maya from rejection had shifted. She now recognized the need to model resilience and advocacy. This was not just a mother's duty but a pivotal lesson in confronting the critical dialogues that would ultimately shape both their futures. On the day of the second meeting, Claire donned a blazer that felt slightly foreign on her shoulders, a representation of her readiness to step into a more empowered role. Maya caught her eye, and Claire saw echoes of her own youthful ambition reflected back at her, urging her to rise. As they entered the conference room, Claire felt a surge of determination. Dr. Johnson greeted them warmly, the atmosphere lighter than their initial encounter. Claire's eyes wandered to Maya, who was settled at the table, sketching out her ideas with fervor. Here stood a child fearless in her creativity, drawing from a wellspring of ingenuity that was wholly independent of Claire's own insecurities. When Dr. Johnson transitioned the conversation to Claire, her heart raced. Suddenly, every ounce of preparation coiled in her gut, ready to spring. She inhaled sharply, willing herself to embrace this moment rather than shrink from it. After a few heart-sinking seconds of hesitation, Claire initiated her proposal, her voice trembling but rising steadily. Each word resonated with hidden confidence, each idea stemmed from a place of authenticity that illuminated the room. As Claire outlined their vision, a palpable shift occurred. Dr. Johnson leaned in, engaged and intrigued. The questions came, not as accusations this time but as a challenge to hone their proposal further. Claire felt the charge of every inquiry tinged with possibility rather than fear, and the realization dawned: she hadn't just stepped into the ring as an advocate for Maya, she was carving out a space for her own reclamation. Though the meeting concluded laden with potential and resolve, a different challenge awaited. As they stepped outside, an unexpected figure blocked their path, a former colleague of Claire's, someone who had dismissed her aspirations years ago. The disconnect between the personal upheaval experienced during the meeting and the arrival of this figure felt like a seismic shift. "Claire, is that you?" The voice dripped with condescension, an unwelcome reminder of former insecurities. A storm brewed deep within her, urging her to rise to the occasion. The moment of confrontation loomed ahead, and within it, Claire sensed an opportunity to redefine her narrative. Would she crumble under the weight of this encounter, or would she embrace it as a chance to stand firm in her newfound identity? As she steadied her posture, the unshakable truth crystallized within her: this was not just about Maya or proving a point, it was her time to unleash her dormant genius, confronting both her past and the future unfolding before her. How would she respond to the challenge standing before her, knowing she was now fighting for more than just herself? Claire felt her pulse quicken as she faced the familiar figure, a rush of memories flooding back moments when her aspirations had been belittled, when confidence had slipped through her fingers like grains of sand. The tightness in her throat screamed at her to retreat, but the fierce determination she had summoned during their meeting with Dr. Johnson ignited a flicker of defiance. "Of course, it's me," Claire replied, her voice steady as it sailed through the air between them, sharp and unwavering. "And you're looking well." The air thickened with tension, the palpable remnants of old wounds. Claire knew that this encounter was not simply a random intersection, it was a moment laden with significance, the perfect stage to redefine what she stood for. How would she project the essence of her newfound conviction? As doubt nudged at her, a resolve took hold. She was no longer the quiet contributor of the past, she was a mother, an advocate, and perhaps most importantly, a budding visionary. "Claire, right?" Her former colleague feigned interest, eyes glinting with condescension. "What are you up to these days?" "Still dreaming big, I see." The undercurrent in his tone was unmistakable. It was an attempt to undermine her, a veiled comment wrapped in faux concern. Claire could feel the fire of determination swirling within her. This was not merely idle banter, it was a challenge, a personal reckoning she needed to face head-on. "I actually just presented some ideas to Dr. Johnson regarding educational reforms," Claire said, her voice gaining strength. "Inspired by my daughter, Maya." "Oh. And you think that it's going to bear fruit?" He smirked, folding his arms. "You know the real world doesn't operate on dreams, right?" The mocking tone threatened to unravel her composure, but rather than retreat, Claire leaned into the tension, letting confidence fill the spaces left by doubt. "What I've learned is that the real world often needs a fresh perspective. Dreams can create a roadmap to meaningful change, the right ideas lead to action, and action can affect real improvements." The shift was palpable. She saw a flicker of surprise in his eyes, the familiar glint of incredulous disbelief that she had somehow found her voice after so long slumbering in the shadows. Claire was no longer just defending herself, she was stepping into a realm where her authority had power, where her experiences were valid, and where her voice mattered for herself and for Maya. As they stood there, a silent standoff played out between them. The air crackled with unspoken words, the tension transforming into something more potent. Claire could feel the hesitance pooling in her former colleague's demeanor, a flicker of uncertainty playing in his gaze. "Maybe it's time to rethink what we consider valuable," she continued, the words spilling out with uncharacteristic boldness. "There's more beyond our old definitions, and it starts with recognizing potential, not just in children, but in ourselves." As she finished, Claire felt lighter, knowing she had carved out space for herself, no longer eclipsed by someone else's perception. It was a small but significant victory, a seed of self-belief that had begun to take root, one that she felt entwined with her mission for Maya and others like her daughter. Yet, the confrontation also awakened a new query within her. What would be the next step? How could she take the momentum of this singular moment and translate it into actionable progress? There was still work to be done and doors to open, but Claire felt invigorated by the challenge ahead. As they parted ways, she narrowed her focus on the path that lay open before her. Would she step deeper into this new realm of advocacy and change? What if, by continuing to pursue her goals, she inadvertently opened new doors not just for Maya but for other children whose voices had similarly gone unheard? Driving home, exhilaration coursing through her veins, Claire reflected on the choices that lay before her. It was time to seize the opportunity now available to her, not just for herself, but to pave the way for Maya's dreams and those like her. The question lingered: how could her next move catalyze a shift not only in their lives but also in a system that desperately needed to change? Claire knew the answer was imminent. All she had to do was jump into the unknown once more, boldly. With determination stoked and a hunger for more possibilities pulsing within her, Claire began to envision the next steps. But amidst the excitement, a nagging doubt remained: could she gather enough strength to truly change the narrative, to become a voice for empowerment in a world still rife with constraints? The realization struck like lightning: the journey was just beginning. What awaited her on the horizon would demand every ounce of resilience she had discovered, but above all, it demanded action. Claire arrived home, the weight of her thoughts settling like a heavy fog. The evening light dimmed, mirroring the uncertainty gnawing at her spirit. What had begun as a moment of triumph began to dissolve into a swirl of apprehension. She had spoken boldly, yet the path ahead seemed cloaked in ambiguity. Maya's laughter echoed down the hallway, the innocent joy of her daughter pulling Claire from her spiraling thoughts. Perhaps this was the grounding she needed. Claire glanced at the modest artifacts of their life together: Maya's drawings pinned to the wall, evidence of creativity blossoming against the backdrop of daily challenges. The sight fueled her resolve. Every moment spent nurturing Maya was an investment in not just her daughter's future, but the futures of all children yearning to be heard. But what did it truly mean to take the next step? Claire paced the living room, strategizing. A casual notion morphed into a burning desire: she needed to gather a coalition of like-minded individuals. Who understood the educational landscape better than the parents who navigated it daily? This was the crux of transformation, powering change from the ground up. The thought sparked a rush of adrenaline. She envisioned weekly meetings, brainstorming sessions where raw ideas could ignite discussion. She imagined parents sharing their grievances and aspirations, creating a collective voice that couldn't be silenced by dismissive attitudes. This was the real work, coalescing the energy from her renewal into a movement that could stretch far beyond her own corner of the world. Doubt still lingered within her, casting shadows. What if this was merely another fleeting dream? She could already hear the skeptics, the dismissive comments whispering, conjuring her self-doubt. Claire halted, forcing herself to confront that instinctive fear. She had to challenge it, to redefine it, or it would shadow her every effort. She took a deep breath, steadying her resolve. The moment she had stood against her former colleague swelled in her memory, filling her with determination. No, she muttered to herself, eyes narrowing with newfound conviction. This is different. I am different. With a newfound clarity, Claire grabbed her laptop and began drafting an outline for a proposal. Each word forged a bridge between her vision and the reality she wanted to manifest. She listed potential members for her group, parents from her and Maya's school, fellow advocates she had encountered in meetings, and even a few educators willing to break the mold. Each entry was not just a name, it was a symbol of potential collaboration, of united voices ready to shake the status quo. As she pieced together her vision, Claire felt the exhilaration return. This project wasn't just a dream, it encapsulated her fight for representation and change, a fight that had begun with Maya. Yet, anxiety threaded through her excitement. What if they didn't share her passion? What if they were met with the same skepticism she had encountered? Facing rejection wasn't simply a possibility, it began to feel like a foreboding certainty. But reflecting on her daughter's hopeful spirit reminded Claire that failure was not a dead end, it was an essential part of growth. As she prepared to share her proposal with those she hoped to recruit, Claire felt a storm of anticipation brewing within her. Would they accept her invitation to cross the boundaries of the traditional system and leap into uncharted territory together? Would there be enough of them willing to dream on a grand scale? Pushing aside those fears, Claire channeled her energy into one final proposal section. Its purpose was to ignite passion. Written boldly at the top, she penned, "Together, we can establish a forum for change. Let's reclaim our narratives." As Claire hit send for her proposal email, her heart raced. The moment felt monumental, the first step toward widespread change emerging from within. Would her vision resonate with others? Would they recognize in it the fight for their own children's futures? Tomorrow would tell. But for now, as the evening deepened beyond the window, Claire stood at the precipice of possibility, bracing herself for the impact of her initiative. The journey was still vast and fraught with challenges, but there was no turning back. What awaited her next? A response, a vital answer to whether her dream of change was shared or merely a solitary voice against an indifferent tide. The dawn broke with an uneasy stillness. Claire had barely slept, her mind racing with visions of both encouragement and potential rejection. As sunlight streamed through the window, she felt a persistent knot in her stomach that refused to unrave. Today was a turning point, a brand new chapter that she had set in motion, and yet the enormity of that realization weighed heavily on her shoulders. Morning rituals unfolded in a haze. Maya chirped cheerfully as she packed her lunch for school, blissfully unaware of her mother's turmoil. Claire watched her, thinking back to the many times she had second-guessed her own abilities. How many times had she doubted her worth, her resolve? Not anymore. She was ready to break the cycle of hesitation. With a deep breath, Claire sat at the kitchen table, her laptop open, the blinking cursor awaiting her command. Time ticked on, but her heart raced as she revisited her proposal. It had taken an immense amount of effort to crystallize her thoughts into something tangible, but now she felt that her words needed more than a simple read-through, they needed emphasis and depth. Each line required an infusion of her ethos, her passion for education reform resonating through every phrase. She focused, typing furiously, as ideas flowed onto the page. Gathering that coalition, creating a sustainable dialogue, it needed to be systematic yet intimate. In her mind, she envisioned mothers and fathers sharing their stories, baring their souls to one another in vulnerability. Could they see themselves in her vision? Could she project that profound urgency and hope into her words? After meticulously refining her draft, Claire leaned back, the weight of her anxiety intermingling with cautious optimism. Then came a wave of uncertainty. What if the very essence of her ideas fell flat? What if her passion didn't resonate? She shook her head, willing herself to dispel the doubts. With a reaffirming sigh, Claire sent individual emails to each selected group member, inviting them to her vision. As the digital sends echoed through her mind, she felt a mixture of thrill and dread. She had exposed herself, left her aspirations raw and vulnerable for others to scrutinize. Would they rise to her challenge, or would they retreat into skepticism? While staring out the window, watching the world begin its daily rhythm, Claire's phone buzzed. It was a notification. Responses were flooding in. Each ding made her heart race and pulse quicken. Anticipation coursed through her veins, yet with each message she opened, she was met with varying degrees of enthusiasm, curiosity, and concern. Some replies offered encouragement, others added questions that probed deeper, demanding clarity on her intentions. A few responded with mild skepticism, asking how they could be expected to alter a system that had resisted change for decades. Claire felt the weight of those questions, each one echoing her own doubts. These parents sought answers. They needed to know she was prepared, that she could navigate uncertainties, and importantly, that she believed in the possibility of change. She realized now that her initiative transcended mere organizational goals, it was about cultivating trust and shared belief. Her passion needed not just to inspire but to resonate with a collective yearning for transformation. This was not a solo endeavor, it was a movement that required genuine connection. The clock ticked steadily. One last email sat unread, waiting, gritty with hesitation. It was from an old friend, Laura, a dynamic voice in education reform, known for her sharp critiques. Claire felt pangs of anxiety surge through her at the thought of facing Laura's potential dismissal. Yet, the memory of her daughter's drawings flashed before her. Every stroke of crayon reminded her what was at stake, not only her growth but Maya's future, and the futures of those children they both cared for. Drawing strength from her earlier resolve, Claire opened Laura's email, rereading her words. How she responded now would shape not just her path, but set the tone for what could blossom. As she began to type, a question arose in her mind. Would she confront her fears and stand resolute, or would she succumb to the criticisms threatening to overshadow her vision? The moment weighed heavily, and Claire felt it stir deeply within her. There was no denying her urge to press forward and assert her beliefs. Her decision loomed. Would she navigate this critical point with fortitude, or would she allow self-doubt to undermine the work ahead? The next move would define her journey, but she already sensed something powerful stirring inside her. A latent self-confidence waiting to be unleashed. Every decision she faced would shape her narrative. As she composed her response, Claire felt not just the weight of change at her fingertips, but a sense of urgency echoing potential grief mingling with dreams, for if she didn't act boldly now, how many more could she inspire to reclaim their narratives? Tomorrow would bring the challenge of strengthening that resolve further. Would her transformation lead to empowerment, or would it falter in the face of critique? Claire stood before her bedroom mirror, adjusting her blazer one last time. The reflection staring back was undeniably different from the woman who had once hesitated in the shadows, questioning her worth. She had forged a path of determination not only for Maya but for every child left unheard. Today was the culmination of weeks of toil, anxiety, and burgeoning belief. They had called this meeting to redefine the narratives of not just Maya's future but that of countless others across similar dichotomies of circumstance. She inhaled deeply, allowing the breath to settle the frangible nerves within her. Arriving at the community center for the first parent coalition gathering, she felt a pulse of excitement mingled with nervousness. Gossip filled the air as she entered the room, folks shifting between conversations. Fragments of their aspirations collided with palpable energy, creating a charged atmosphere that spoke to the heart of what they could potentially achieve together. Nervous chatter dulled as Claire approached the front of the group, an assortment of mothers and fathers meeting her gaze with ancient hope suspended in every eye. It was a sight long overdue, a representation of diverse backgrounds eager to engage in dialogue about education and reform. "Good evening, everyone," Claire began, her voice steady, the earlier tremors having vanished. "I'd like to thank you all for coming together. We're here not as isolated individuals but as a collective yearning for change, a chance to reimagine our children's futures." She felt their eyes keenly upon her, expressions awakening a shared understanding embroidered into the fabric of each story and struggle recounted. Spellbound, she pressed on, sharing her vision of inclusivity, creativity, and reform. Within moments, her once hectic thoughts formed a coherent narrative. Our children have the ingenuity to change their realities, yet they are often dismissed by the very systems that should nurture them. Together, we can influence a new era of understanding, one that embraces diversity in thought, background, and aspiration. As Claire spoke, the room erupted in murmured agreement. The collective intent powered her words, transforming the tentative atmosphere into one charged with possibility. She could feel the flicker of conviction springing to life, illuminating the path she had once thought lost to uncertainty. One parent, a father with a determined glint in his eye, raised his hand. "Claire, what does this initiative look like? How do we begin?" A spark ignited within her. This was the moment they could collectively design the framework that would empower them all. Claire transitioned seamlessly into specifics, articulating strategies and potential programs they could advocate for, strategies that modeled inclusivity and removed barriers. As she laid out pathways for parent involvement, mentoring opportunities, and collaborations with educators and administrators, her followers leaned in closer, nodding in affirmation. This was no longer merely her dream, it was a unified vision gaining momentum. Discussions flowed freely. Ideas ricocheted throughout the room, each contribution adding richness to the foundation they were building. Questions emerged, probing deeper into what success could encompass, inspiring others to express their enthusiasm. Claire's self-doubt ebbed gradually, replaced by an invigorating rush of collaboration. The meeting crystallized into a forceful step towards systemic change, serving as a catalyst for each participant's transformation. Claire knew this was not just about seeking representation, it centered around creating a structural shift in how education could embrace every child's potential. Days turned into weeks filled with organized meetings and evolving dialogues, and Claire found herself at the helm of something burgeoning, a movement that was less an initiative and more a burgeoning family of advocates and nurturers, each weaving their aspirations into a vibrant tapestry aimed at reform. Through the trials of fundraising events, pamphlet designs, and community outreach, she cultivated relationships that empowered parents to find their voices. She watched in awe as the gradual change took shape. Fellow parents no longer cringed before authority, they questioned it, engaged it, nurtured it. Maya's excitement grew in tandem, she became an emblem of all they aspired to for their children. As the program bloomed, Claire's pride solidified into something unshakable. This had evolved beyond merely nurturing Maya's dreams, it was about creating a platform for innovation and hope, showcasing untapped brilliance regardless of background. And as they stood in front of a full auditorium during their first public forum, a microphone trembling in her hand, Claire caught sight of Maya in the audience. The feeling swelled deep within her, an overwhelming wave of purpose. She stood tall, her confidence fortified by the resonating voices around her, the same children who had once been overlooked. In that moment, Claire realized she had accomplished a metamorphosis. The frightful echo of her limitations had shattered, replaced by an undeniable spirit. She was proud of the ripple effect that their coalition ignited within the community. Before she spoke, a visible bond of camaraderie enveloped them all. They were not mere parents any longer but advocates for change, a movement rooted in solidarity and resilience. The road ahead was laden with challenges, but now they stood prepared to face them not as isolated individuals, but as a unified force committed to upholding every child's right to thrive in their education. Her heart surged with gratitude for every moment that had led her here. This victory echoed through her mind. It wasn't merely about believing in Maya or reimagining education, but acknowledging her worth and the boundless capabilities each person brought forward. From the humble beginnings that Claire had once known, she now flourished in the space where dreams intersected with reality. She had achieved not only to inspire her daughter but to sculpt a legacy of change for all. This was the resolution not just for Claire but a testament to the newfound identity she now fully embraced: the loving advocate, the fierce mother, the changemaker. The moment to let that light shine was no longer a mere glimmer in the distance, it had become an unstoppable force illuminating the way forward. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your thoughts and theories about this journey of transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the message of persistence and change together. Don't wait even one more second to share.